Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we continue the introduction to Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Transcendental devotional service is 5 stages of reciprocation. 1. Only the self-realization stage, just after liberation from the material bondage, is called the Santa or neutral stage. After that, when there is development of the transcendental knowledge of the Lord's internal potential opulences, the devotee engages himself in the Dasya stage. By further developments of the Dasya stage, a respectful fraternity develops, and above that, a feeling of friendship on equal terms becomes manifest. Both these stages are called Sankhya stage, or the devotional service and friendship. Above this, there is the stage of filial affection, and this stage is called the Vatsalya stage. And above this stage, there is the stage of conjugal love, and this stage is called the highest stage of love of gods. Although there is no difference of quality in either of the above stages. The last stage of conjugal love of God is called Madhurya stage. Thus he instructed all about the devotional science to Rupa Goswami and deputed him to Vrindavan to excavate the lost site of the places of transcendental pastimes of the Lord. After this, he came back again to Varanasi and delivered the sannyasis and instructed the elder brother of Rupa Goswami, which we already discussed. The Lord left only 8 shlokas of his instructions in writing, and they are known as Shikshastak. All other literatures of his divine cult were extensively written by the principal followers, the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan and their followers. The cult of Chaitanya philosophy is richer than any other one, and it is admitted to be the living religion of the day with potency of being spread as Vishwa Dharma or universal religion. We're glad that the matter is already taken up by some enthusiastic sages like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj and his disciples. We shall eagerly wait for the happy days of Bhagavad Dharma or Prema Dharma inaugurated by the Lord Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The 8 shlokas completed by the Lord are as follows. Glory to the Shri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years together, and thus the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death is extinguished. Such Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for the humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge, it increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it helps to have a taste of the full nectarine for which always anxious we are. O my Lord, your holy name can alone render all benediction upon the living being, and therefore you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna, Govinda, etc. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies, and there is no hard and fast rules for chanting these holy names. O my Lord, you have so kindly made easy approach to you by your holy name, but unfortunate as I am, I have no attraction for them. One can chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking himself as lower than the straw in the street, tolerant more than the tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and being ready to offer all kinds of respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O the Almighty Lord, I have no desire for accumulating wealth, nor I have any desire to enjoy a beautiful woman, neither I want any number of followers of mine. What I want only is that I may have your causeless devotional service in my life, birth after birth. O the son of Nanda Maharaj, I am your eternal servitor, and although I am so, somehow or other, I have fallen in the ocean of birth and death. Please therefore pick me up from this ocean of death, and fix me up as one of the atoms of your lotus feet. O my Lord, when shall my eyes be decorated with tears of love, flowing constantly by chanting your holy name? When my words will be choked up when uttering the holy name? And when all the holes of hair on my body will have eruptions by the recitation of your name. O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment as 12 years or more than that. And tears flowing from my eyes like the torrents of rains. I am feeling all vacant in the world in the absence of your presence. I do not know anyone except Krishna as my Lord, and he shall always remain as such, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or he may make me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, but he is always my worshipful Lord unconditionally. Om Gyanandarinandasya Gyanajanashalakaya Chakshunanmanitamyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master is divine grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada has opened my darkened eyes with a torch of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto his lotus feet. So, we have concluded the introduction to the Srimad Bhagavatam. Sorry. And this is the prayers. These are the prayers Lord Chaitanya left behind. Sri Shikshastakam. Shiksha means instruction. Astaka means 8. 8 shlokas of instructions from Lord Chaitanya. And within these 8 prayers, the whole philosophy of Krishna consciousness is inculcated. So Prabhupada's, there's actually a chapter in the Chaitanya Charitamrita called Shikshastaka prayers. There's a whole chapter dealing with this. So I'm going to read you from that chapter. The Shikshastaka prayers. The following summary study of the 20th chapter is given by Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur in his Amrita Prabha Bhasya. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu passed his nights tasting the meaning of Shikshastaka in the company of Swarup Damodar Goswami and Ramananda Rai. Sometimes he recited verses from Jayadeva Goswami's Gita Govinda, from Srimad Bhagavatam, from Sri Ramananda Raya's Jagannath Vallabha Nataka, or from Sri Bilva Mangala Thakur's Krishna Kanamrita. In this way, he became absorbed in ecstatic emotions. For the 12 years Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lived at Jagannath Puri, he relished the taste of reciting such transcendental verses. The Lord was present in this mortal world for 48 years altogether. After hinting about the Lord's disappearance, the author of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu of Chaitanya Charitamrita gives a short description of the entire Antya Lila and then ends his book. Okay, verse number 1. Only the most fortunate will relish the mad words of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which mixed with jubilation, envy, agitation, submissiveness, and grief, all produced by ecstatic loving emotions. All glories to Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All glories to Lord Nityananda. All glories to Advaita Chandra. And all glories to all the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. While Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu thus resided at Jagannath Puri, Nilachala, he was continuously overwhelmed night and day by separation from Krishna. Day and night he tasted transcendental blissful songs and verses with 2 associates, namely Swarup Damodar Goswami and Ramananda Raya. He relished the symptoms of various transcendental emotions, such as jubilation, lamentation, anger, humility, anxiety, grief, eagerness, and satisfaction. He would recite his own verses, expressing their meanings and emotions, and thus enjoyed tasting them with these 2 friends. Sometimes the Lord would be absorbed in a particular emotion and would stay awake all night reciting related verses and relishing their taste. In great jubilation, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "My dear Swarup Damodar and Ramananda Rai, know from me that chanting of the holy names is the most feasible means of salvation in this age of Kali. In this age of Kali, the process of worshipping Krishna is to perform sacrifice by chanting the holy name of the Lord. One who does so is certainly very intelligent, and he attains shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna. In the age of Kali, intelligent persons perform congregational chanting to worship the incarnation of Godhead, who constantly sings the name of Krishna. Although his complexion is not blackish, he is Krishna himself. He is accompanied by his associates, servants, weapons, and confidential companions. Simply by chanting the holy name of Lord Krishna, one can be freed from all undesirable habits. This is the means of awakening of all good fortune and initiating the flow of waves of love of Krishna. Let there be all victory for the chanting of the holy name of Lord Krishna, which can cleanse the mirror of the heart and stop the miseries of the blazing fire of material existence. That chanting is the waxing moon that spreads the white lotus of good fortune for all living entities. It is the life and soul of all education. The chanting of the holy name of Krishna expands the blissful ocean of transcendental life. It gives a cooling effect to everyone and enables one to taste full nectar at every step. So, let there be all victory for the chanting of the holy name of Lord Krishna. Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. Sankirtanam means congregational chanting. It is done in a group. So, those devotees who relish the idea of solitude, worship, and yet are not purified from the basic sinful activities or sinful desires, they have not yet joined the movement of Lord Chaitanya. That's a fact. It should be within everyone's heart to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya. What is the desire of Lord Chaitanya? Let us all unite and chant the holy name of Krishna. This is the only remedy in this age of Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga is full of faults. It is the age of quarrel and hypocrisy. For an insignificant matter, now people argue. Insignificant. Prabhupada says, China and India, they were always friends, the two countries. But recently, this is in the 60s, China attacked India for no reason. And fighting for property, fighting for land, which is not very suitable for agriculture, rocky lands. So then Prabhupada mentions that the arguments in the age of Kali are not purposeful. It's not about the issue at stake, the issue that is discussed or argued about. It is not about that. What is the cause of all these arguments? Do you remember? Srimad Bhagavatam. Do you remember? What is the cause of all these arguments? Let's make a quiz. Does anybody know? Anybody is reading Srimad Bhagavatam by Srila Prabhupada? Quiz. All the big devotees. Now you can speak up. All the Prabhupada Nugas. Now you speak how much you really understand that Prabhupada is in his books, that he's present in the Vani. How much you associating with it, Vani? Oh. What does Prabhupada say? We can say so many things, speculate. But what does Prabhupada say? Why there are arguments in this age of Kali? Why they develop over nothing? Why the China and India? Why they were in war? When Prabhupada was writing the Srimad Bhagavatam, what caused this war amongst China and India? The countries that were always friendly. Always friendly. So, does anybody know? What does Prabhupada say in the Srimad Bhagavatam? Why there's war? Why are there arguments in this age of Kali? What is the cause? Does anybody know what Prabhupada says in his books? This is his most important book. This book Prabhupada brought with him to America. Just like you see here, look exactly the same. Exactly same edition. So if we do not take time to study these books and we simply say, oh, I am a Prabhupada Nuga, I'm a Prabhupada disciple, then we bogus. That is bogus. Bogus number one. Hypocrisy. You see? The age of Kali is full of hypocrisy. So then I'm also a hypocrite. I criticize so many bogus things done, so many bogus gurus, but I'm also bogus because I say Prabhupada is in the Bani, Prabhupada is in his books, and I do not read these books. So that means I'm a hypocrite. You see? So you should read. Here, it's in the, now please try to remember, this is from the 5th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th chapter, text number 13. And I'm just going to read the relevant passage. While preparing this commentation on this particular stanza of Srimad Bhagavatam, we have a crisis before us that our neighboring friend China has attacked the border of India in a militant spirit. We have practically no business in the political field, and yet we study situation that in old age there are both China and India, and they lived peacefully for centuries without an ill feeling between them. The reason is that they lived in those days in an atmosphere of God consciousness, and therefore every country over the surface of the world was God-fearing, pure-hearted, simple populace, and there was no question of political diplomacy for nothing. Practically, there is no cause of quarrel between the two countries of China and India on the issue of a land which is not very suitable for habitation, and reasonably, there is no cause of fighting on this issue. But due to the age of quarrel, Kali, which we have discussed in these pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, there's always a chance of quarrel on slight provocation. This is not due to the issue at question, but it is due to the polluted atmosphere of this age when systematically there is propaganda by a section of people to stop glorification of the name and fame of the Supreme Lord. Okay? So, you're gonna remember?
Yes, polluted.
Polluted what?
Atmosphere.
Polluted atmosphere, yes. And what creates that polluted atmosphere?
Stoppage of worshipping God.
Systematic propaganda. Systematic, not just stopping glorification, but there's a systematic propaganda by a section of people to stop glorification of the name and fame of the Supreme Lord. This is the problem. Systematic propaganda. Just like this devotee was saying yesterday, that it is almost a requirement at the university, if you want to study science, it is almost a requirement that you are an atheist. If you're religious, that is a great disqualification. You're probably not going to get into the college, into the university to study science if you're religious. So that's an example of systematic propaganda to stop glorification of the name and fame of the Supreme Lord. And so many others are trying to stop the glorification of name and fame of the Supreme Lord. You see, just like you see on the internet, these devotees are arguing about all these nonsense things. Who started this? Who is that rascal? Who introduced these weird concepts? Prabhupada says very clearly, his service to Krishna is done by serving the spiritual master. You cannot concoct your own service. Oh, now I will I will be the exposer on the internet. I will expose the great conspiracy and I will save the people from the devil, from the demons. Where does Prabhupada say this? Expose some conspiracy or this and that. Prabhupada never said this. You should expose. That's not the Sankirtan movement. Prabhupada actually says the duty of the preacher, besides pointing out the flaws of this age, he should simultaneously introduce the Sankirtan movement. If he doesn't do that, his preaching is incomplete. Incomplete. Simply criticizing and no work, that is a business of inferior men. Prabhupada says that also in a letter. A business of an inferior man. Simply complaining, but if you're supposed to do something, then you say, oh, I do not know how to do it properly. So then why are you criticizing? You be silent. Silent. Don't criticize. You cannot criticize. First, you have to have merit. Just like we're reading Keshava Kashmiri, right? When Keshava Kashmiri met Lord Chaitanya. Keshava Kashmiri, he wrote this poem to glorify Mother Ganges. Lord Chaitanya, he challenged him, why don't you? You're such a great scholar. Why don't you compose a poem glorifying Mother Ganges? So he did it immediately. 100 shlokas he composed from scratch. He was such an intelligent scholar. He had the blessings of Saraswati. That's why he was so intelligent. So then Lord Chaitanya, he challenged. He found some flaw. Just like he wrote that Bhamani Bhatta, right? Bhamani Bhatta. Do you remember this last time?
Yes.
Yes. You remember what was the flaw Lord Chaitanya picked? Yeah, well, he was writing that because Bhavani is the wife of Lord Shiva, that's her name, Bhavani. But Baba refers to Shiva. So Bhavani naturally means the wife of Shiva. But he added the word Bhatta. So it's kind of like a double. And the wife of Lord, I don't remember exactly, but it was some nonsense. So Lord Chaitanya, he pointed out, this is wrong. This doesn't make any sense. Logically, it doesn't make sense. So then Keshava Kashmiri, he challenged that, how can you criticize me? You are simply a student of grammar. You have no higher education. Lord Chaitanya was a young man at that time, 16 years old, like that. So you cannot criticize me. You first of all have to have merit. So this makes sense. So any nonsense comes, any challenges without any sort of a qualification, that it creates chaos. See, nowadays, people are like animals. Everyone wants to speak. You have this Facebook. See, any nonsense, you will now instruct what is Krishna consciousness. We do not know anything. Is that person chanting his rounds? Is he following the regular principles? Is he serving? Is he distributing Prabhupada's books? No, nothing. You know nothing of that person. Simply on Facebook putting big picture of Prabhupada. And you know nothing about that person. You see? So that's why we have the Ritvik system. Prabhupada established the Ritvik system for what? So we can argue? No. It was a practical system. So there is there's an order. It's a system to make sure that the devotees who are dealing with it are following the regular principles. That is like-minded association. Many times people say, devotees say, I need devotee association. I need devotee association to get strength, to get inspired, and so on and so on. Yes, but you have to be discriminative. Not that you associate with any nonsense. That he has tilak, he has shaven head, oh, okay, he's a devotee, let me associate. Prabhupada says the association should be sought in accordance with the level of sadhana, standard, and the same understanding. A person should have the same sadhana as we have, 16 rounds, 4 eggs, and he should also have the same understanding. You see? So the sadhana you might not be able to verify, right? That also is not a very good etiquette to ask, do you follow this? Or do you smoke ganja? Tell me. It's a little not very tactful to ask like this, especially if you see that devotee for the first time. You immediately ask all these kind of confidential questions. But the same understanding, that devotees should have that same understanding, so that we can see, that we can talk, even over Facebook. We can ask him, what is your understanding of Krishna consciousness? Yes, you have stated many times, Prabhupada is Diksha Guru. But now let us speak. Diksha means knowledge, transfer knowledge. That is in the books. So, are you taking that Diksha? Prabhupada is giving Diksha, but you yourself, you're taking that Diksha? Because if you're not taking the Diksha and you're preaching, then you're nonsense. Then you're not authorized, and then you're bogus Guru. See? Then you're bogus Guru. Every Guru, every preacher must be authorized by his Guru Maharaj. Tasmat Guru Prapadita Jigyasu Shreya Uttamam. You should surrender to the bona fide spiritual master, first of all, first condition. Jigyasu Shreya Uttamam. And he should inquire about the absolute truth. So those who are not reading Prabhupada's books, they're not inquisitive about the absolute truth. If I'm inquisitive, then I'm going to find the answers. If I have the questions, then I will find the answers. But even if the questions are not there, if I think, oh, I am very knowledgeable, I am very serious disciple of Srila Prabhupada, I know everything. What he has to instruct me? What do I have to consult other godbrothers? I am the only godbrother. I am godbrother to myself. Then that person is a nonsense, number one. Prabhupada said this. One who is not serious, who does not want to consult anyone else, including his own spiritual master, he doesn't want to consult by reading his books. He is immediately an offender to the feet of Lord Krishna. He becomes an offender. And if you associate with offenders, then you yourself become an offender. And you fall down from the path of devotional service. So, there's a systematic propaganda, all kinds of deviant concepts. The ISKCON movement, actually, that is also, there have been some major discrepancies. But that's simply a tip of the iceberg. Because the ISKCON movement has been established by Srila Prabhupada, and there's been some, at least materially speaking, a structure, that movement is still going on. That ISKCON institution is still going on and serving the purpose of Srila Prabhupada still serve the purpose of Srila Prabhupada. You might not see that purpose being served because you are simply like a fly looking for the stool. But the purpose is still served. Not because these people are deviating, because they're misinterpreting and creating so many scandals, but because of Srila Prabhupada's expert intelligence. Srila Prabhupada is a Trikala Gyan. He knows past, present, and future. So he knew. Don't be so foolish to think that Prabhupada didn't know what was going to happen after you leave this planet. He knew very well what's going to happen. And still, he established all these major temples, all this big ISKCON institution. Why? Why he took so much trouble fighting the lands in India, Juhu Beach? So much problems were there. Mr. Nair, Krishna had to kill that guy. Such a great demon. Krishna had to kill him. He had a heart attack. Because he was creating so much cheating with the devotees. He sold them the lands, then he said, you didn't give me money. He took the money and then he said, you didn't give me anything, give me more. Such a demon rascal. So Prabhupada fought. For what? If he knew very well that his disciples will deviate from his instructions, that will disobey the Ritvik system of initiation. And so why he fought so much for these temples? Because he arranged the ISKCON institution in such a way that even these people becoming gurus, they still distribute his books. And they still maintain the deity worship. So, some preliminary introduction to Krishna consciousness is there. You see, we cannot understand the mind of the Mahabhagavat, why he does like that. So there's at least there's some organization. Even these gurus, they cannot do anything and everything they want. There is so many people, so much responsibility, so many donations. But these people who are outside are criticizing on Facebook, they're even worse. Because they have no one to check. No one to check. No one is there. Simply speaking some rubbish and misguiding so many souls, innocent or foolish, you can say. There's no innocence, Prabhupada says. Child is innocent, but he's a fool. He's still a fool. We call him a fool. Child is foolish. So, the first sloka of Shri Shastakam is Glory to Shri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years together. And thus the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death, is extinguished. Okay, this is the way how to counteract all these nonsense conceptions. The Sankirtan, glorification. Just like these classes we're holding, this is also Sankirtan. Or if you preach to someone, if you tell him, oh, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or you explain about the Maha Mantra, you give him prasadam, this is all Sankirtan movement. Then you're part of Sankirtan movement. And if you become initiated disciple of Srila Prabhupada, then you take it very seriously. You take the charge, you take the responsibility of becoming a preacher on Prabhupada's behalf. Then many others that will be affected by your preaching work. So Prabhupada wanted it. He wanted everyone to become his disciple. Not that simply, some ISKCON or some sectarian religion. Everyone, the whole world, let everyone become his disciple. How? By following his principles and by preaching Krishna consciousness. Following the principles also, that is not so advanced. If I follow the principles, no meat eating, there's so many vegetarians. Are they devotees? No. There are so many people who don't gamble necessarily. They don't gamble. And there's so many people who do not take any intoxication. But are they devotees? No, they're not devotees. They're not chanting Hare Krishna. And they're not preaching on Krishna's behalf in this world. So it is absolutely necessary that we preach this Krishna consciousness. We should take the initiative. It is not like a yoga, some sort of a bogus yoga school that you go to some studio or you learn some technique and you practice in solitude. It is not a private affair, this Sankirtan movement. Sankirtan means together. So any genuine disciple should be concerned how to unite not just God brothers, but the whole world in the glorification of Krishna. Not just God brothers. God brothers. Sometimes the God brothers, they become the most difficult to cooperate with. Everyone has this ambition. Not everyone, but the ambition comes, let me become the leader of all the other God brothers. You see? So it cleanses the heart. The mind is like a mirror. It's like a sponge. It takes from the conditioning we're situated in, and then it stays there. Mental impressions, depending on our conditioning. There's a conditioning, mode of ignorance, mode of passion, mode of goodness. Living in a temple and associating with the Shravanam Kirtanam process will bring us to the mode of goodness, and later into the purified goodness, Shuddha Sattva. Only in this Shuddha Sattva, purified goodness platform, we can realize Krishna fully. But even if we're not so advanced, the mode of goodness is very favorable. Rising early, taking prasadam, chanting Hare Krishna, this immediately brings you to the mode of goodness. This is the secret how Prabhupada established the mission in the Western countries. He trained his disciples in this process of sadhana bhakti, which would bring them immediately to the mode of goodness. And they were coming from all the backgrounds, tamasic, rajasic backgrounds, illicit sex, free love, drugs. And immediately he was able to lift them up. So we should always keep ourselves in this Shuddha Sattva or mode of goodness conditioning, atmosphere, godly atmosphere. Prabhupada says, previously in China and India, there was no problem. And there was no problem in any other country because the whole world was living in the atmosphere of God consciousness. See? Criticizing ISKCON and discussing the scandals of these gurus is not the atmosphere of God consciousness. It's the atmosphere of Prajalpa, village talk. See, in a village, the villagers, they discuss, just like here also, right? The villagers, they were saying here in our temple here in Linado, the villagers, they sometimes they spread some rumors that we kill people and that we're very weird and so on. So it's just a rumor. Only a fool can believe such a thing. So similarly, this is not the atmosphere of God consciousness. This contributes to the confusion in the age of Kali. The atmosphere of God consciousness can be created if we follow the instruction of the spiritual master. So every single person, you make a temple in your house. How do you make a temple? Do you need a big Radha Krishna deities? 50 feet tall? No. One picture of Lord Chaitanya is sufficient. You have a picture of Lord Chaitanya, Panchatattva, that is the prescribed method of worship for this age. Why? Because Lord Chaitanya does not take any offense. That's why he's the most suitable deity to worship in this age of Kali. He doesn't take any offense. And how do you worship? How do you worship Lord Chaitanya? How should you worship Lord Chaitanya, Lord Shri Panchatattva? How do you worship? You know,
Bhajan.
By chanting Hare Krishna. Exactly. So simple. Simply chanting. If you simply chant and dance in front of the deity of Lord Chaitanya, a picture of Lord Chaitanya is satisfied. Yes, very good. Even if you have no flowers, no decorations, nothing, you don't need that. Nowadays, what time we have for deity worship? Everyone is working very hard, no time. Then there's disturbance from Facebook. People are completely enslaved by the modern world. So they have no time, but that's okay because Lord Chaitanya comes, the most merciful, Namo Mahabharanya incarnation of Krishna. He comes, yes, that's okay. You're very busy, but keep me here and I will accept your offerings. Never mind whatever nonsense you're doing. Whatever nonsense you are, you come to me. I will deliver you. Don't worry. Simply, I have one condition. Chant Hare Krishna. Chant Hare Krishna. And if you chant Hare Krishna sincerely, with sincere heart, all the dirt accumulated will go. Illicit sex will go. Kick out. Rubbish. Krishna will kick out. Lord Chaitanya will kick out from your heart. Intoxication, he will kick out. We don't need this. Gambling, he will kick out. And you will feel more and more enthused. Yes, let me chant more. Let me read more. Let me offer nice offerings, not garbage. That I buy some boga in a vegetarian restaurant and then I am asking Krishna to eat this garbage cooked by non-devotees. What kind of devotion is that? Krishna says, one who offers me with love. One who offers me with love, I will accept that offering. If you don't love Krishna, if you don't care for Krishna, if you give him all kinds of garbage cooked by non-devotees who hate Krishna, non-devotee must hate Krishna because non-devotee means he thinks I am the enjoyer. I am the enjoyer. I am God. Anyone who thinks I am God, I am the enjoyer, I am the Purusha, is envious of Krishna. He wants to kill Krishna. See, anyone who is simply gratifying his senses, he is here in this world to kill Krishna. You see? Just like Prabhupada was saying, a section of people, they're always against the glorification of the Lord's name and fame, his pastimes. So this is how you make a temple. You chant and you give up these simple activities. And you read these books and you preach these books. Reading is not sufficient. Prabhupada says, simple hearing is not sufficient. I do not say this. Prabhupada said this. You have to pass it on. Pass on the message to others. This is the highest act of compassion. Don't tell them about the scandals in ISKCON. Don't spread this rubbish. This parampara nonsense. The nonsense parampara. Someone you have heard these scandals, so you say, again, Prajalpa, Gramya Katha, village talk. No, you hear from Prabhupada. Prabhupada doesn't speak of this nonsense. He speaks of important subject matters. Chant Hare Krishna. Krishna is God. You going to die. Birth, death, old age, and disease. That is here. Do you have a solution for this? And if you're contemplating ISKCON, the scandal, Illuminati, the Jews, this, that, then guess what's going to happen at the time of death? Guess what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Do you know?
Whatever state of mind you have at the time of death, that kind of birth you're gonna get.
Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajatanti kalibanam tam tam evaiti kontaya saratat bhava bhavita. That state you will attain. You will take birth in a bogus guru's family, right? The gurus, they have families. Sannyasi with whatever. So you will take birth in such rubbish association because of your absorption. Krishna doesn't care. Actually, all these devotees who are discussing these topics, they're very much attracted. They themselves, they feel great pleasure, on a subtle level, discussing these scandals because they themselves feel attracted. So we reject such association, we reject such discussion. And we are trying to establish temples. Every house should be a temple. Every house should be a temple. You have a picture of Lord Chaitanya, a picture of Srila Prabhupada. Picture of Srila Prabhupada must be there. If you have no respect for Srila Prabhupada, Lord Chaitanya doesn't even know you. If you have no respect for the Acharya, if you think that Srila Prabhupada is an ordinary man, Lord Chaitanya doesn't even know you, doesn't know that you exist. If you're an offender to the commander-in-chief of Lord Chaitanya's army, Srila Prabhupada, Lord Chaitanya doesn't even know you, Krishna doesn't know you. You are nowhere. We should not be offensive. We should, first of all, understand. We should, with great respect, we should read and hear from Srila Prabhupada with great respect. Yeah. Then you invite people, and don't be afraid of being challenged. Don't be afraid. Don't be a fanatic. If people are challenging, they might not do it necessarily because they're offenders, but because they want to test. They want to test you. They want to test this knowledge. They've been cheated for so many times. It is not surprising that they want to test a little bit. So you should not take personal offense. And someone says something and immediately you take offense and you want to kick him out. No. Whatever the guest needs, you give him. This is the Krishna conscious hospitality. So if he wants to clarify some doubts, then you serve him. See, so that's why we should associate with the spiritual master, read his books, so we can clarify people's doubts. We become very expert in answering questions and challenges. You see, that is a temple. And if you do not know the answer, then you admit it. Yes, actually, I do not know. That is also okay. That is also okay. You're honest. Be honest. I do not know. Here's a book of Srila Prabhupada. You can read yourself. See, it's so wonderful. Srila Prabhupada is our spiritual master. No one has to be some sort of an authority. You become an authority on behalf of Srila Prabhupada. And if you do not know, then you just give him Prabhupada's books and you say, look, I do not know. My knowledge is limited, but my spiritual master knows. So if you read his books, you're going to know more. That is also good preaching. Lord Chaitanya says, you don't have to be perfect. All of you will become gurus. How? Repeat as it is the message of Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. You see, so this is the Sankirtan movement. Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all dust accumulated. This is the antidote to the age of Kali, the contaminated age of Kali. Antidote. So you become also, you surrender. This is a real surrender. Surrender and become instrumental in this Sankirtan movement. So I'll stop here. This is the first shloka, and tomorrow we're going to discuss another one. So if there are any questions, Prabhu, you have any questions? There's some questions here. Chandra, Hare Krishna Prabhu, in regards to that the war between China and India started due to the presence of a movement which systematically opposed the propagation of God. I heard some devotees say that a similar opposing movement infiltrated the Hare Krishna movement during Srila Prabhupada's presence and caused much havoc. To supplement this, they bring up the following quote: I have tried to give you all Krishna consciousness, now it is your duty to develop it. Remain strong on the spiritual platform, then your progress will not be checked or blocked. I'm just gonna go a little bit, I'm gonna a little skip because I know this quote, and I think I know where you're aiming with this quote. It is a fact, however, that the great sinister movement is within our society. I have not heard anything from Krishna Das, so all of you may try to say this from this dangerous position. Yeah, so this is what happens when people they don't read Prabhupada's books. They just go on a database and they type in something they want themselves to Prabhupada they want Prabhupada to say something they want to hear. So they go on database, they type in some, word, and then they concoct their own philosophy. If you understand the context of this quote, there's been a deviation early on in the movement in 1970. Four sannyasis, the early sannyasis, they started spreading a flawed Siddhanta that actually Srila Prabhupada is Krishna, is the Godhead. And this created a great confusion in the ranks of devotees at that time. So Prabhupada actually revealed that these sannyasis were influenced by his godbrothers. So when he's seeing the sinister movement, this refers to the Gaudiya Math people, his envious godbrothers, who were not able to do any preaching in India. When Prabhupada became prominent, they wanted to destroy his movement out of envy. You see? So we should understand the context. If you read these letters, if you understand the context, it's very clear. You can't just take something out of context and then impose your own meaning on it, especially when it's not supported by Prabhupada. Some sort of sinister movement, they say the Illuminati and this and that. Prabhupada never speaks of this. So they think that Prabhupada is a fool. Prabhupada, he was not sufficiently, his books are incomplete. Prabhupada didn't give us enough guidance. So that's why, let me do it. Okay, I'm going to help Prabhupada and I'm going to explain what Prabhupada really meant. So this is, what is this? This is posing as another Acharya. This sort of mentality is posing as another Acharya. Only another Acharya in the line can give that sort of interpretation. When the teachings of the previous Acharya are no longer understandable to the general mass, another Acharya is needed. So, but we don't see that Prabhupada's books are incomplete. They make so many devotees. So many devotees are giving up illicit sex, meat eating, they're chanting 60 rounds, waking up early in the morning. So many of them. So we see that there is no need whatsoever of another Acharya. Another Acharya as Srila Prabhupada. There's no need whatsoever because the Acharya is still here. This is the etiquette. You cannot become a guru if your guru is still initiating. And you're competing with your guru. And that means that you're not even a disciple, what to speak of a guru. And what should we do about it? The Gaudiya Math infiltration. Prabhupada gave instruction, do not associate with my godbrothers. They simply come to poison the weak-minded. So we should protect them. We should not go and associate with them. So similarly, we should not associate with nonsense, so-called devotees who are envious of, devotees who are preaching. River Yamuna, was Jesus wrong for spending time with the sinners, or was he pure enough to not get contaminated? Lord Jesus Christ is the Shakti of his avatar. This is confirmed by Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur, and it is confirmed by Srila Prabhupada. So Shakti of his avatar is an eternally liberated soul. He's never wrong. He's never wrong. Whatever he does is perfect, absolutely perfect. He cannot be wrong. He's absolutely perfect. He's empowered by Krishna to preach God consciousness in the society. So whatever he does is directly controlled by the Lord. That's why, to us it might seem wrong because we're foolish. We see externally, just like some people say, Krishna is a warmonger. He was inducing his friend Arjuna to fight in war. See, they don't understand. They see externally. Yeah. So, Lord Jesus Christ is not wrong spending time with the sinners. Why would it be wrong? Of course not. We have to preach to the sinners. The whole world is sinners. So if you want to preach to the pure, then why you want to preach in the first place? He's already pure. Preaching means you preach to the sinners. And yes, he was completely pure. He wouldn't get contaminated. So similarly, we should also have that discrimination that if I'm not able to persuade people to take up Krishna consciousness, I should not waste time and get contaminated also. I should pick my battles. Those who are against, those who are mocking Krishna, those who are strongly atheistic, I should not preach to them. I should avoid that discrimination. I should develop also. If we give association to non-devotees instead of taking their association, can we still get contaminated if we are together? No, whatsoever. No, you will be protected. Actually, they're asking Prabhupada, what is the difference? Giving association and taking association. So Prabhupada, he draws a line. He says, if you taking up their bad habits, then they're giving you association. And if they're taking up your habit, just like chanting Hare Krishna, offering food stuff, then you are giving them association. You are preaching very nicely. That's how you know. So if you're giving up your rounds, if you're breaking the regulative principles, and this all on account of your so-called preaching, then you give up that so-called preaching. You're losing, you're drowning yourself. Give it up immediately. That's why preaching should not be done by the neophyte devotees. The neophyte devotees should worship in a temple and associate with more advanced devotees to get, first of all, strength, not foolishly. So even if the devotees are not there physically, you can always associate with Srila Prabhupada by reading his books. That will give you sufficient strength. But you have to read seriously, not that reading and not remembering anything. So Jagannath says he will become a black gay Jew in a Nazi family with Illuminati association. Yes, exactly. Brinda Mataji, Hare Krishna. A very important point to reject non-value addition things on the spiritual progress path. Yes, thank you. Reverend Yamuna, very informative and enlightening class. Okay, thank you so much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. It was inspiring. Machandra, would you say that there is still presence of a sinister movement? Yes, of course. The sinister movement is always there. Prabhupada says, always. He said that in the purport, we're reading it. There's always a section of people who systematically trying to deviate people from glorification of Krishna. You see, we should also be careful with this Facebook. It's very distracting. It can become very distractive. We should always focus on the sadhana. Preaching, yes, but don't give up your sadhana. If you give up your sadhana because of preaching, what kind of preaching you're doing? You yourself are in Maya, and your preaching will simply misguide people. Okay. Now Ramachandra says, Hare Krishna Prabhu, here's something in regards to hearing. Hearing properly means preaching, writing, and deity worship. Okay, wonderful. So, Prabhupada says, if you want to know the absolute Supreme Personality of Godhead, you cannot speculate, neither meditate. It is not possible because your senses are very imperfect. So, what is the way? Just hear from him. So, he has kindly come to say Bhagavad Gita. Shrotavya, just try to hear. Shrotavya and Kirtitavyascha. If you simply hear and hear in the class of Krishna consciousness and go outside and forget, oh, that is not nice. That will not make you improve. Then what is? Kirtitavyascha. Whatever you are hearing, you should say to others. That is perfection. Therefore, we have established back to Godhead. The students are allowed, whatever they are hearing, they must be thoughtful and right. Kirtitavyascha. Not only simply hearing. Oh, I am hearing for millions of years. Still, I cannot understand. Because you do not chant. You do not repeat what you have heard. You have to repeat. Kirtitavyascha, Shrotavya, Kirtavyascha, Dhiya. And how can you write or how can you speak unless you think of him? You are hearing about Krishna, you have to think, then you can speak, otherwise not. So, Shrotavya, Kirtavascha, Dhiya, and Pujascha. And you should worship. Therefore, we cry this deity for worshipping. We have to think of, we have to speak, we have to hear, we have to worship. Pujascha. Then occasionally, no, nityada, regular, nityada. This is the process. So anyone who adopts this process, he can understand the absolute truth. This is the clear declaration of Srimad Bhagavatam. Oh, wonderful quote, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Wonderful quote. There's so many other quotes where Prabhupada is saying. In the second canto also, Prabhupada says, one should not simply read or hear the Bhagavatam, but he should make arrangement so the other people can also hear the Bhagavatam. You can relate it to book distribution. By book distribution, we're giving the opportunity to others to hear also. That is also required. Yesterday, I had a discussion with my friend, Vaishnava Thakur Prabhu. We had a discussion about hearing. He said that even simple hearing is good service. One does not necessarily have to be a preacher, or he might not be following the regular principle, but if he hears, Krishna appreciates that. That's also good. So I said, yes, that is good, but we should also understand that the aim is ultimately to surrender, to become a devotee. So we're hearing the instruction. There's the order of the spiritual master. So let's say Prabhupada says, you go and buy some potatoes for Krishna, make mashed potato for Krishna, something like that. So we're hearing, Prabhupada says, buy the potatoes. And we're hearing, yes, very, very submissively, with folded hands, we're hearing, yes. Prabhupada says, buy the potatoes. Yes, yes, yes. Buy the potatoes. Yes, yes, yes. I'm hearing, see, I'm hearing. It's also service. But you never actually go and buy the potatoes. So what kind of hearing is that? That is not very submissive hearing. Submissive or attentive hearing means that then you're going to follow the instruction. Similarly, if you do not feel the urge to preach, to spread this, if you don't have that desire, then you're not hearing properly. You do not understand the purpose. You're hearing in a nonsense way. You have not understood the essence of what Prabhupada is saying. The essence is devotional service. We're reading with ulterior motives in the mind. We're not hearing with the desire to understand the desire of the spiritual master. We're hearing to get some information, like the Gyanis, right? They pick from the Vedas whatever they want and they misuse the knowledge. You see, so hearing is there, definitely. We should ask questions also, that is good, but there must be submission, there must be service. Service. So, what is it? That service is preaching. I posted this previously on my wall. Maybe some of you have saw this quote. Service, preaching means service. Service means preaching. When we say serve the spiritual master, that is preaching. It's not necessarily that we have to serve the spiritual master physically. We serve his instruction. And deity worship also, if we do in a privacy of our apartment, that is not real deity worship. Because in a deity worship, there's prasadam, right? You make prasadam for the deity. And prasadam must be distributed. If you're worshipping the deity and then you eat all these offerings yourself, that is not very high class. There must be distribution of prasadam, distribution of knowledge. That is also prasadam, that is also mercy, and distribution of foodstuffs, and distribution of the Maha Mantra. See, this is so important. People will not understand this very sophisticated philosophy because the consciousness is so covered. The more you practice the regulative principles, the more you practice sadhana, the more you realize how difficult it is for those who are non-devotees to understand this philosophy. Krishna himself, he says, Bhaktimam abhijanati, only by my devotional service I can be understood. So we have to give an opportunity to the people to engage in Krishna's service. That is our duty. That Prabhupada is not going to do for us. That we have to do. That is our service to the spiritual master. Simply taking, oh, Prabhupada is in his books, very good, let me take advantage. And not giving anything in return to Prabhupada. Well, he's not here physically. Oh, so I don't have to serve. That is nonsense. It's nonsense. He gave the instruction, go and preach. Make more devotees. You are devotees, so expand yourself into many others. So like that. Okay, River Yamuna. Hare Prabhuji, reading all the constant text on the scriptures on as well as devotees on Facebook take me away from reading a lot. Is that the same as reading Prabhupada's books? Well, it's not bad, but reading Prabhupada wrote the books in a certain way. So there's a message Prabhupada wants you to hear. Like the Bhagavad Gita, for example. Bhagavad Gita there's a development of the philosophy. There's a development. From the Bhagavad Gita, you can learn how to be a perfect preacher. Krishna himself is the greatest acharya of how to actually introduce Krishna consciousness to people. You start with the basics. You are not this body. Then you go to karma yoga, engage in the duty. What is the meaning of duty? Then you come to transcendental knowledge. What is transcendental knowledge? Surrendering to the spiritual master, and so on, so on. So it's a manual. If you take bits from there, then how will you understand the conclusion, the Siddhanta? So it is not bad if you are reading on Facebook and this and that. It's okay. Anything we hear from Prabhupada is beneficial. But if you want to be a preacher, then you have to hear submissively how Prabhupada is speaking at the time when Prabhupada is speaking like that. You see? So it's like that. Prabhupada even said, those devotees, my disciples, they should read all of my books. Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Nectar of Devotion. Prabhupada says this in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. If they do not read my books, they will simply eat, sleep, and fall down. Very heavy, Prabhupada says. So we should hear. Constantly, we should read, hear, and discuss. It is so important. And not waste time with these confused devotees, reform devotees, those who are trying to reform the ISKCON people. We should not associate with the Nazi so-called devotees, those who are mixing in the Nazi propaganda. We should not associate with Sajias, those who are skipping and they discussing about the gopis and shedding tears and all these kind of caricatures. So many deviant groups are there, So try to avoid them. Anyone who says Prabhupada is not the spiritual master anymore, and you need a living guru, immediately you reject that person. He's a nonsense. Guru, you can have a guru. You can have some advanced Godfather. That is very good. Very good. If you find advanced devotee, even he might be a pure devotee. If he's a pure devotee, oh, wonderful. Take advantage. But never, you cannot say that Prabhupada is no longer physically here and that's why he's not a guru. That is also wrong. So avoid all these groups. So I'll stop here. Thank you so much for joining. It was a very nice discussion. Thank you for all your comments. And we'll continue tonight. Thank you, Ramachandra Prabhu, for that nice quote, and as usual. Jai. Grantaraj Shiman Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Gora Premanandi Hari 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 Bol. Jai. Hari 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 Bol. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Murti Shrimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati. Hare Krishna. Thank you.